Welcome to the Channel 19 Experience Trucker Podcast. This is where the real stories roll, straight from the blacktop.
Breaker 19, villains, you got your ears on. Turn that squelch down and the volume up. You're tuned in to the Channel 19 Experience Trucker Podcast. I'm your host, Tony. It's Sunday, October 19th, and this is episode number 33. We're going to change up the script a little bit this week. Sometimes life jumps up and smacks you in the face, makes you do something a little bit different. So we'll still have the usual segments, and we've got a great conversation coming up with Lee Owens, who's putting on the American Truckers Jubilee truck show down in Searcy, Arkansas this coming weekend. But I want to kick off this week like this. Friday night, Kawana and I went to the White Buffalo concert at the Rebel Lounge here in Phoenix. And he's got a set list full of powerful, thought-provoking songs. But funny enough, the most powerful moment in the show, for me, wasn't the music. It was a comment he made between the songs. During the show, the White Buffalo stopped mid-set, and he smiled. The room was laughing, loose, alive, joking around, and he grinned and he said, "Y'all are going to have to shut up. I can't whistle while I'm smiling." And I'll be damned if that didn't hit me harder than all the music in the show that night. He's got a song called The Whistler, and I'm going to talk more about that one later because it ties straight into what we're going to do here today. But in that moment, hearing him say that, it stuck with me. I can't whistle when I'm smiling. Because he's right. You can't whistle very easily when you're smiling. And you can't whistle when you're crying either. And the powers that be know that. They've always known that. It's the oldest trick in the book. Keep you crying so hard you can't breathe, or give you just enough comfort to make you smile. Either way, you don't whistle. That's world history in a nutshell, villains. Every empire, every system, every con built on the same two levers, pain and pleasure. The Romans did it with bread and circuses. The kings of England did it with parchment and seals. The tech giants do it with dopamine and debt. The trucking industry does it with opportunity, a word that's supposed to taste like freedom, but mostly just masks the hunger. If you're crying, you can't whistle. Smile a little too wide, and you can't whistle either. But not us. And by us, I mean you and I. But also all the other whistlers. I'm not the loudest, the biggest, the smartest, and there's a lot of us. We're the whistlers now. We looked behind the curtain. So wipe your eyes, drop that grin. It's time to whistle again. We've got work to do. If you're not driving, it's a great time to like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends.
Paper breaker 19, can I get a radio check? Pretty quiet out here on Channel 19. There's a plain white rapper taking pictures at the state line. Hit the jake brake quick, we ain't paying no fines. The driver swing into the interstate, body shop south at exit 5. Building trucking ain't the same as it was. We're the last of our kind.
At the Mid-America Truck Show, I had the fortune to meet up with Mike Barber, founder of Truckers Wealth. Both of us have a passion for understanding the uniqueness of truckers and sharing our knowledge wherever we can. Mike is a seasoned financial professional. He has over 20 years of dedicated experience serving the trucking industry. Truckers Wealth has created a specialized financial hub where truckers can receive expert advice and tailored solutions to build wealth, minimize taxes, and secure lifetime income for themselves and their families. Check out his website, truckers-wealth.com, and look forward to seeing him on the program here soon. Grab that safety vest. It is time for the pre-trip. Starting off with the quote of the week, and this one's a dandy. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable, by Caesar A. Cruz. And you know, that one line right there, That's the whole mission statement for the White Buffalo for this episode, and honestly, for this entire project of the Channel 19 experience. Because real art, real truth, ain't supposed to tuck you in, it's supposed to wake you up. It's supposed to crawl under your skin and rattle your peace and somehow remind you that you're not alone in this madness. That's what the White Buffalo does every time he opens his mouth and pens a tune. That's what Will Cook does when he writes about the machine behind the wheel. That's what TJ Graff does. That's what Deb Labrie, Mike Rietzman, and so many others do when they stand up and speak plain. Different voices, but the same mission. Comfort the disturbed, disturb the comfortable. We're here to make you feel something real. So buckle in, keep that coffee hot, and let's get rolling. We've got some bulletin board business to cover here before we start blowing the whistle. First up on the bulletin board, since we're talking about disturbing the comfortable, up in Canada, Chris Barber and Tamara Leach just got handed their sentences after that whole Freedom Convoy trial. 3 years, $10 million, all for the Crown to prove what exactly, we don't know. But the end result was this. At the end of the day, the judge said, house arrest. Now, there's a few exceptions built in, but 12 months of house arrest. So what do they do? Well, they started a YouTube channel, a podcast of sorts, and they call it House Arrest. You got to admit, that's poetic as hell. The state says you can't leave, and they say, cool, we'll just talk louder from home. When the world tries to muzzle you, you either cry about it or you start whistling back. Those two just learned how to whistle through the drywall. I'll share some links out to their new channel. Get over there, subscribe to it, watch the episodes. Both of them crack me up, and they do a great job continuing to lead from the front. Thank you for all that you do, Chris and Tamara. And then the last item on the bulletin board this week, well, a couple items. I was going to do a bunch of other news stories trying to get caught up from being in England, but honestly, I've got so much content. I'm just going to do a couple housekeeping items this week because we've got plenty more to get through this episode. So I've been ramping up my AI and code development chops and getting back into working on the website. And so I've got a couple new things out there that I'm building that are live and they'll continue to expand. So come check them out, please. First up, the Channel 19 Experience bookshelf. I've got a bunch of trucking books up there now, so you can quickly find those, links to order them, learn more about them, search by authors, all the fun stuff, filter, sort. But the main point is to get out there and enjoy our trucking culture. It's got links to Kindle versions, it's got links to audiobooks, all the kind of stuff that however you want to consume that content, go out there and find some of the cool storytellers that have been a part of our industry for a long time. Some of these books are 50 years old or more that tell the stories of our culture in trucking. And I'll be adding songs, podcasts, movies, TV shows, all to that area here with a little bit of help from AI and a lot of bit of help from my wife. You'll be able to find those on the website. Click on Trucker Resources up at the top on the menu bar, and then scroll down on that page, and you'll see a spot where it says Read Books, and then it'll pop open, and you'll be able to see all the books and the cover art and information about the books, how long they are, all that kind of stuff. We'll keep expanding that as we go. And then the other item I've got for this week, new on the website, have you ever wondered if what you're thinking about doing in your logbook or what you may have already done in your logbook is actually legal? Well, I built a tool in there to help you figure that out easily, and it's free. So whether you're on an ELD or you're old school rebel who bought a pre-1999 truck or engine to stay on paper a little bit longer, or maybe you're just normally on an ELD who happens to be stuck on paper for the day due to your malfunctioning ELD device, you can build out log scenarios in the past, in the future. You can ask for a friend, as they say. And the fun part, after you build the log with a couple quick entries, you enter in your duty status, you enter in your duration, you export a file. There's a button there to export the file. It saves it to your desktop. And then there's a link on the page that takes you over to the FMCSA's Ethos tool. I forget what it stands for, Educational Tool for Hours of Service or something like that, Ethos. Anyway, it's got all the rules engines in there. It's basically not exactly the same, but very close to the same as the violation engine that the officers use when you send over your E-rods or your E-record of duty status. So when you upload the file, it checks against their rules engine to see if you have any violations. And then on the bottom right, it shows you what violations you might have and what sort of things you may want to change. So for that one, hover or click on the Trucker Resources button again on the menu bar, and you'll see a button for Create a Log Tool. Click on that, and it'll take you to the page where you create the tool. Don't ride around wondering if you're going to get a citation. Check and find out beforehand. It's much cheaper that way. Right now, this is just the first version. That was my first pass at playing with some AI tools to build the website interface. But I've actually built an even cooler version that hopefully I'll get out this week. It's got way more features in it. But anyway, I made a YouTube video with how to use the one that's up there now. I just need to edit that and I'll get it posted here probably Sunday or Monday, and I'll post a link, update everybody so you can go watch how to use it. It's pretty cool, pretty slick. Thanks to the FMCSA for having the tool available publicly so we can check our violations and make sure we're doing things the right way, or at least writing them down the right way. But the next one's got even better stuff. It's got a visual grid so you can see things, all kinds of other features as far as downloading, exporting files, importing other log files. I know you outlaws, you need all the help you can get. I'm trying to make a few tools to make it easy for you. Check it out on the website. If you got ideas, you got questions, ping me. Always looking for better things to put together. That's it for the bulletin board this week. There's a ton more we could talk about, but we're going to move on for today. We'll catch up on those news stories later. And there's plenty of other people talking about that. Like, you don't need to hear me say the same darn things that everybody else is saying as we talk about Duffy and some of the things about English language provisions. We got the crash down in Georgia. There's all kinds of stuff going on that I want to talk about, but I got to pick and choose. So let's move on. We've got a lot to do today. So let's jump into the main part here of the pre-trip. This week, the pre-trip inspection is built around one artist, the White Buffalo. Every once in a while, somebody writes songs that feel like they've crawled out of your own chest. Jake Smith, aka the White Buffalo, he does that. He doesn't just write for you, he writes from you, from that place under the ribs where you stash all the things that you can't find the words for. Earlier this week, I posted his song, I Got You, on Facebook. That song's the balance, the reason the man is still standing. It's remembering that love, faith, or even just one person who sees you can be the anchor in all the noise. It's Paul writing from prison. It's a trucker praying in the cab at 2 a.m. So a few nights ago, Quan and I went to his show in Phoenix. Small, intimate venue, a few hundred people, standing room only. One of the songs he played in the set was Set My Body Free. Now this song, it's part prayer, part exorcism. Here's a verse. Gonna set my soul free. Gonna throw my faith in the fire. Gonna burn it till the sin ain't real. That's not rebellion, that's rebirth. There's something biblical in that, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walking straight into the furnace, not to prove their faith, but to be refined by it. It's the same fire the prophets talk about, the one that burns away pretense, not people. A modern psalm that's tired of being polite. And you can feel the tension in it. Every note in that song feels like a man trying to climb out of his own skin. And we talk about freedom all the time in trucking. Freedom of the road, freedom to choose, freedom to fail. But this song reminds you there's a kind of freedom that's heavier than chains. Set My Body Free isn't about running away. It's about burning off what's fake until what's left is real. It's the gospel of the open road. Not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but steel, diesel, grease, and dawn. That song, Set My Body Free, was the one that cracked the night open. It's what sparked the emotional moment from Jake. That bit of banter with the crowd. That smile. And then the line. Y'all are going to have to shut up. I can't whistle while I'm smiling. Set my body free, that man wrestling with his own ghost. I got you. That's the reminder that love's the only thing that keeps us from sinking. The Whistler, that judgment day, and forgiveness in the same breath. And then to top it off, Come Join the Murder, the song that plays like an invitation and a warning all at once. 4 songs, 1 message. We're all trying to find redemption in a world that keeps selling us in. So for this week's pre-trip, I'm not talking about tire pressure or logbooks. I'm going to talk about soul maintenance. Because after that show, I realized this whole episode, every word we're about to cover, comes down to one question. Are we still free enough to feel something real? Or have we smiled so long that we forgot how to whistle? Because there's something about that ancient sound of whistling, something wired into our nervous system. A whistle isn't just noise, it's a trigger. It lives right in that 2000 to 4000 hertz zone, that sweet spot where our hearing is sharpest. The same frequency as a scream, a baby's cry, or the sound of a hawk diving through the air. Your body doesn't get to ignore it. You hear it, you react. The heartbeat jumps, your pupils tighten, your adrenaline spikes. It's biology's way of saying, pay attention, this matters. And for as long as we've been walking upright, somebody's been using that sound to control somebody else. The whistle was the first command that didn't need words. Before sirens, before supervisors, before dispatch software, one person made the sound and everyone else moved. Shepherds whistled at their flocks, Roman centurions to move soldiers through smoke and blood, and then came the trenches of World War I. Generals sitting safe behind the lines, blowing a whistle that meant, go die now. Later, it echoed through the streets, cops blowing whistles to scatter strikers, and the factories, steam whistles, marking every minute of the day. 7 a.m., start, noon, eat, 5, stop. The whistle didn't just organize labor, it conditioned it. One sound that ruled every hour, the sound of obedience disguised as progress. But like every sound of power, it didn't stay in their hands forever. Somewhere along the line, people started whistling back. Workers, prisoners, protesters, musicians, movie writers. The whistleblower was born. The one who used the same sound not to command, but to expose. And in music, that whistle took on a different shape. Ennio Morricone turned it into loneliness in the good, the bad, and the ugly. Otis Redding whistled his loneliness out over the bay. The Scorpions turned it into a breeze of freedom when the Berlin Wall came down in the 1980s with their song Wind of Change. Axl Rose made it ring out in Guns N' Roses' Patience. I don't even have to play those clips. You can hear those whistling tones in your head, in your heart. And the White Buffalo, his whistle isn't command or nostalgia, it's confession. Part lament, part warning, a prayer and a threat in the same breath. His whistler is a soldier, a man trying to scrub something off his soul. My whistlers, they're the truckers, the thinkers, the workers, trying to live with what the economy, automation, and false promises have done to our insides. Different wars, same ache. Different uniforms, same fight. And you know what? I think I just finally figured out after all these years what my real CB handle should be. I went by cue ball when I was younger, but that was a baseball nickname that I got as a kid, and I just never came up with anything better. But maybe it took me 30 more years to figure out a decent CB handle, so I think I'll go by the Whistler. For too long, we've been the ones getting whistled at. And it's time we turn that sound around and whistle back. So here's a little more about the Whistler. In the chorus, and I mean, he hits it with emotion that's just raw. Like I'll post the link of my favorite YouTube version that he does kind of, it's not entirely acoustic, but it's just a very closed studio. And I mean, he gets after it. And he did in live in person too. And at the end, when he ramps it up, it says, step aside, let the whistler through. And then he really ramps it up and he says, I came to get it on. Let's get it on. And then the whistling begins again. It's time to get it on, villains. We're done smiling over crumbs. We're done crying. It's our turn for whistling. And that leads me to my final song reference. Next up in the drive line, we're going to line up some sacred cows and we're going to put them down. So the final song reference is Come Join the Murder. Another great song of his. Pre-trip is complete for this week. If you spot a defect, let me know. Let's debate it. Get that seat adjusted. Let's push the buttons in. We've got work to do. Trans Carolina Permits is based out of North Carolina. They've been in business since 1977, and they've got a team with a ton of experience in all of our favorite part of trucking, which of course is the government. They provide a portfolio of services for the trucking industry, not to mention they have a compliance program. They'll help you with clearinghouse setup and queries, IFTA, and mileage reporting, so your state-by-state mileage, your fuel purchase tracking, and get that wrapped up into a nice little bundle for quarterly filings. They're a one-stop shop for your trucking needs. You can find them on Facebook and LinkedIn, or check out their website, transcarolinapermits.com, or give them a call at 1-800-899-4870.
It's by truckers for truckers. This is the Channel 19 Experience. Let's hit the road.
Well, villains, we spent 32 episodes of this podcast so far dancing around the edges, poking at problems, asking uncomfortable questions. You know, in my younger years, I hauled a little bit of cattle. Loaded them up, early mornings, cold, try not to get killed, trucked them down to Worthington, Minnesota. I would never consider myself a proper bull hauler. I never went long distances, but I hauled just enough of them to know that it's a hell of a tough business and it's a very dangerous game to play. And today we're going to haul some cows again. We're going to round some cows up and hopefully take them to the slaughterhouse, because this industry, hell, this entire country has bent itself around so many lies, twisted itself through so many loopholes, and corrupted itself with so much corporate influence peddling that it barely resembles anything the founders would recognize. Maybe some change is good. Maybe evolution is necessary. But when you warp every principle to serve the highest bidder, when you bastardize systems until they work perfectly for everyone except the people they're supposed to serve, that's not evolution. That's rot. And yesterday, while part of the country protested from the streets, and the other half stages its own version of protest, headquartered in the Oval Office, while we argue about immigration walls and criminal justice and who deserves what, we're going to line up some sacred cows today that nobody's been allowed to question and explain why every single one of them needs to go. So let's jump in. Let's start with our industry's biggest lie, the driver shortage. There is no driver shortage. There's a retention crisis caused by systemic wage suppression and exploitation, and a race to the bottom that everyone participates in while pretending to solve. The big powers in the industry cry shortage while lobbying against everything that would actually fix it. Tech companies sell solutions to manage 90% turnover instead of asking why turnover is 90%. Carriers spend millions on recruiting while refusing to pay enough to keep anyone past 18 months. It's a feature of the system they've designed. It's not a bug. And we've talked about this before. If there's such a shortage, why haven't wages gone up? But driver wages have been flat. Mike Ritzema joined us and told us all about it. He sees the payroll numbers week in, week out. The driver shortage is manufactured consent, a story that lets everyone avoid the obvious solution, pay people enough to do the job, and eliminate the problems driving down driver wages. cabotage, non-domiciled CDLs. Hell, people not even having CDLs. I read an article this week, 85 truckers arrested, didn't even have CDLs. Nothing, just drove over the border with trucks. And that's just the ones they caught. Everyone benefits from maintaining this fiction. Well, not everyone, certain someones. Companies get desperate drivers who will accept anything. Tech companies sell retention solutions that don't retain anyone. Consultants make fortunes managing turnover instead of preventing it. But I better not get ahead of myself because we've got sacred cow number 2 to get rid of. That we're a nation of laws. Really? Then explain what I've talked about in the past about shell companies. Explain how hundreds of carriers operate throughout disposable corporate entities designed to evade liability. When accidents happen or violations accumulate, the company dissolves while principals start new operations. Explain the organized CDL fraud networks operating from single addresses. In some of my previous roles, I found hundreds of truck drivers using the same addresses. Hundreds. Now, I don't know what they're up to, but something's not right. Largely Punjabi and Hindi names in California's Central Valley, but scattered across the country. And while that was the majority of the ones that I found in that instance, that wasn't the only patterns that were seen. But everyone knows which DMVs to go to for easy licenses. Everyone knows which addresses host dozens of residents. Explain how the CVSA just decided to not enforce English language proficiency for a decade or more. Studies show non-English proficient drivers crash at twice the rate of impaired drivers, let alone non-impaired drivers. Explain how the FMCSA lacks either the resources or the will to enforce anything meaningfully. We have a two-tier system where legitimate operators follow rules that bankrupt them, while fraudulent operations exploit every loophole and jurisdiction gap. When accidents happen, shell companies dissolve. When violations accumulate, new companies appear. The law only applies to those stupid enough to follow it, it seems. Everyone else has a lawyer and a Delaware LLC. We've got thousands of pages of laws and not much point to any of them with how they're being enforced. And it's destroying this country. Sure, truckers have had a tendency to color outside the lines. Guilty. But this is ridiculous. It's dereliction of duty. Let's go on to the third sacred cow, the free market. What free market? In trucking, we have labor exemptions that allow wage theft. The Motor Carrier Act exempts drivers from overtime protection. Companies can work you for 70 hours and pay you for 40. That's not a free market. That's legalized exploitation. Insurance markets punish legitimate operators for industry-wide fraud. Your premiums go up because of accidents caused by CDL mills and shell companies that you compete against. You pay for their fraud through your rates. Large carriers write regulations that crush small operators. They sit on the advisory committees. They fund the studies. They draft the rules with help from their friends that require expensive compliance that only they can afford. Everyone gets a piece except the person moving the freight. This isn't a free market. It's a rigged casino where the house always seems to win, and owner-operators and new drivers especially are the marks. The free market myth lets us pretend that failure is personal rather than systemic, that bankruptcy is bad business rather than built-in exploitation. If banks had a 5-year cycle where a high percentage of them went bankrupt every 5 years, you can bet your asses that something different would be done. They would protect that. But they offloaded the risk onto individuals and they let it ride and call it the free market working. Which leads me to one that's going to hurt a little. Maybe it's going to hurt a lot. The fourth sacred cow on my list is American freedom. We've convinced ourselves that freedom means the right to be exploited with fewer protections than any other developed nation. Freedom to die from insulin you can't afford. Freedom to work 70 hours and get paid for 40. You can own 50 AR-15s, but you're one paycheck from bankruptcy, one illness from ruin, forced to beg for more hours instead of demanding fair wages. What exactly are we free from? The gun has become a pacifier, a symbol of resistance that never actually resists much of anything that matters. Meanwhile, those unfree Europeans get 6 weeks of vacation, healthcare that doesn't bankrupt them, and the ability to tell their bosses to piss off without losing their health insurance. We've weaponized freedom in two forms of anarchy in this country. Neither version includes economic security or genuine opportunity. Real freedom would be the ability to support a family on 40 hours a week and have the energy and lifespan to enjoy that family. Real freedom would be genuine bargaining power. But we've convinced ourselves that the freedom is to be exploited and that that's somehow more noble than demanding dignity. And related to that one, sacred cow number 5, the 1099 contractor sacred cow. We've turned independent contractor into a magic word that makes labor law disappear. No minimum wage, no overtime, no workers' comp, no unemployment insurance, no OSHA protections. Just call them contractors. Never mind that they smell like employees, act like employees, look like employees, behave like employees, can't work for others, must follow every company rule. The entire gig economy is built on pretending employment doesn't exist. And they stole that model from trucking while maintaining all the controls of employment with none of the obligations for the air quotes employer. This isn't just about trucking, it's everywhere. Uber drivers who are partners until they get hurt or crash or misbehave, and then you can't find any liability to pin it on. DoorDash dashers making below minimum wage after expenses, Amazon Flex drivers, FedEx Ground's entire model. We worship entrepreneurship and being your own boss while creating systems where independent contractors have less autonomy than 1950s employees. Small business owners, aka lease operators, have higher failure rates than any legitimate business. Flexibility means the company's flexibility to fire you without cause or benefits. Uh-oh, this next point might piss a few people off. But think about this one very carefully. Remember, I came to get it on. Let's get it on. A while back, California tried to draw clear lines with AB 5. Simply said, if you control the work, you're an employer. True owner-operators with their own authority, multiple customers, and genuine business control weren't threatened by AB 5. The fury came from companies running lease purchase schemes and fake contractor arrangements. Companies whose entire business model depends on shifting vehicle costs to drivers, avoiding payroll taxes, dodging workers' comp, eliminating unemployment liability, escaping OSHA oversight. And the trucking industry spent millions fighting it. Because properly classifying drivers would cost billions. The 1099 classification has become corporate America's get out of jail free card for every labor protection won in the last century. Soak that in. People were taking advantage of this contractor concept, and when California tried to draw some actual fair boundaries around it and cut the bullshit that was exposing people to risk, exposing the state to risk, and with people having no health care, sick time, etc., the trucking industry big shots went and fought this. And the little guys fought it too. They fought to be exploited. They were spoon-fed arguments and handed pre-printed protest signs. That's some next-level Munchausen syndrome right there, folks. When a lease operator goes bankrupt, the company keeps the truck, the driver keeps the debt, society pays for the food stamps, Medicaid, and social services, and the company starts the scam with the next desperate driver. Sacred cow number 6. Our immigration discourse. We've made immigration undiscussable in this country by letting extremists control both sides. The no borders crowd pretends complex societies don't need structure, acting like any immigration enforcement is fascism, renaming everything to indigenous names while living on stolen land but not actually leaving. Sovereign citizens claim immunity from the very systems they depend on. I don't recognize your authority while driving on public roads. Maritime law doesn't apply to me. A complete legal fantasy. Have you watched some of these videos of this nonsense? Meanwhile, in the real world, organized fraud networks operate openly. Hundreds of CDL holders share addresses, complete regulatory capture and willful blindness, exploitation of both immigrants and citizen drivers. The Central Valley concentration makes sense. Agricultural areas with high immigrant populations, established ethnic work networks for recruiting, and distance from major enforcement centers. These aren't individual drivers making independent choices, but organized systems that industrialize the exploitation. Someone collects fees for these drivers, handles their documentation, signs them up for CDL legal protection services, and connects them with carriers willing to hire questionable operators, or sets up subcontractors. Large companies that you know the names of have set up all kinds of LLCs and legal protections to distance themselves legally, but to take advantage of this systematically. Entire industries depend on exploitable illegal labor while funding both sides of the political debate. Let's call it what it is. The nice words are human trafficking. The real world is slavery. The industry depends on this broken system right now. It needs desperate workers who won't complain and benefits from this underground economy, uses immigration chaos to suppress all wages, creates shell companies to exploit undocumented workers, then act shocked when caught. We can't have rational immigration policy because rational policy would hurt corporate profits. So instead, we get theater while the exploitation continues. What we can't discuss seems to be, how does mass immigration affect wage scales? What level of immigration serves national interest? How do we enforce laws humanely but effectively? And how about in a timely manner? Can we add that one? Why do industries depend on illegal labor? Get to write immigration policy. More on that later. Sacred cow number 7. The whole concept of federal versus state rights. We don't have federalism anymore. We have jurisdictional chaos, where politicians grab whichever level of government serves today's agenda. California uses CARB to create de facto national law while screaming states' rights, creating state regulations so expensive to comply with that companies just adopt them nationally, effectively becoming an unelected national legislature. Then they try to run to federal court when Texas does something they don't like. The same politician will defend states' rights in the morning and demand federal intervention in the afternoon. Republicans win in federal power. California must comply. Safety, English requirements. We'll withhold your money. Republicans win out of power. States' rights, 10th Amendment, federal overreach, don't tread on me. And the same problem happens on the flip side. The Democrats in California, we're following our own rules. States decide licensing. Lower crash rates than national average. Then Democrats on other issues. Federal standards, we must have national requirements. Mississippi can't do that. This isn't principle, it's opportunism. And it creates a system where companies incorporate in Delaware, register in Oklahoma, hire drivers from California or Venezuela or India, operate in Texas, and when something goes wrong, nobody has jurisdiction to do anything about it. The trucking industry perfected this. After 250 years of Supreme Court decisions contradicting each other, executive orders overriding legislation, states nullifying federal law when convenient, federal government blackmailing states with funding, bureaucracies creating law through regulation, we don't have a federal system or states' rights. We have chaos that benefits those who can navigate it best. Sacred cow number 8. Taxes. You ever notice that the same people right now screaming about tariffs raising consumer prices support every regulation, fee, and requirement that does exactly the same thing? Fuel taxes, environmental regulations, union wages, insurance requirements, all get passed to consumers. But they're not called tariffs, so somehow they don't count. When Trump announces tariffs, oh, this is a tax on consumers, working families are going to suffer. When the preferred policies raise costs, crickets. I'm going to call these internal tariffs. They never want to call them tariffs. They're an internal tariff. We pay them and extract them from each other, and the money somehow slips away. And we've got a lot of them in trucking, right? Fuel taxes. That gets passed right on to the consumers. And for the ones that you don't get caught on the pump paying, then we've got the International Fuel Tax Agreement to help make sure you pay your fair share no matter where you drove or where you bought it. We've got heavy vehicle use tax. We've got federal excise tax. We've got carbon requirements, environmental regulations, port fees. Let's talk about DEF for a minute and what kind of tax that put on for what reason. Not even scientists can justify most of the time. We've got ELD mandates, reducing productivity, higher costs, insurance requirements, astronomical increases that are being passed through to consumers. The media loves to cover tariffs right now. When are they going to start covering these things? Because they both raise prices, but one fits the narrative and the other one doesn't. And here's the worst part. The money getting collected on all these internal tariffs is being ripped off. We've known this for years. Road taxes for infrastructure head over to the general fund. Tolls for maintenance go to pension obligations. Registration fees, political pet projects. Illinois truckers pay the highest fuel taxes to drive on the worst roads in America because the money goes everywhere except the roads. It's all a shell game that creates a crisis, which creates demands for new taxes for roads that is passed with an emotional appeal, and then they divert the money all over again. And around we go. At least the tariffs are honest about what's being taxed. Where the money's going, we'll see. But the whole game is to obscure who's paying, create a bureaucracy to administer it, generate compliant costs, more jobs, which enables corruption and gaming the system, and it all needs to end. We need transparency in where our money goes, dollar for dollar. We have to fill out the forms every year to account for it. When are they going to fill out some forms to account for it? So sacred cow number 9, that government accountability exists. It doesn't. We have accountability theater. We have inspectoral generals who write reports that nobody reads about corruption nobody stops. Congressional oversight produces grandstanding but no change. Auditors find billions in waste that continues anyway. Whistleblowers get prosecuted harder than the criminals they expose. The FMCSA is supposed to regulate safety. The reality is it's been a revolving door at the top of this department for years. Now, in fairness, we're seeing some movement on some of this stuff, right? Whether it's freight fraud, whether it's the carriers. I mean, on one hand, I'm going to beat people up a little bit, and it feels like I'm picking on them. So we're getting a little bit, but we need way more, right? Because some of this stuff is massive in size. And I know Trump's laying off some people. I think we need to be hiring more government workers, but it has to be done responsibly and with the right points in mind, not just add to the bureaucracy, because we need to clean this crap up. It's been a free for all for too long. Think about like COVID PPP loan fraud, billions is stolen. The small fry occasionally got prosecuted in that, but the big fish continued to swim away. Money gone. And why did some of these companies get all this money? And where did all that money really go? We don't have oversight properly for the amount of money that we spend. Believe me, if you lent that kind of money, if you borrowed your friend 50 grand for something, you kind of watch over their shoulder, right? Well, we spend billions and billions, and who's actually watching over where the hell the money goes? Every time you flip over a rock, hell, Elon wasn't around for that long. He kept flipping over rocks, and every time he flipped one over, he found something corrupt. At least that's what it seemed like. This stuff goes in cycles around crises, right? Like COVID was one example, but these hurricanes and all this other stuff. And we see the scammers on the ground level, not just the ones going on behind the scenes. We find out about those years later when somebody goes and decides to do something about some examples of the fraud. But these people, these groups, they swarm. They're ready for the next crisis fraud. And we don't have the proper oversight. We have people pretending to watch while planning their next gig. It reminds me of this Die Hard quote, Die Hard with a Vengeance, that movie. I don't know, must have been back in the 90s. And at one point in the movie, the kids are running around like just grabbing, I think, candy out of stands or whatever, running out of little corner shops, stealing stuff. And Bruce Willis is like, hey, what the hell is going on? And the kid says, all the cops are up to something. It's Christmas. You could steal City Hall. And in trucking, it kind of feels like they already have multiple times through shell companies and every other mechanism that they've come up with, while regulators are like Bruce Willis standing on the street going, what the hell's going on? Sacred cow number 10, that any of these systems can be slightly reformed. We're running a 21st century global commerce economy on an 18th century operating system that's been corrupted so many times nobody remembers what it's supposed to do. In 1787, we had 4 million people, 13 states, and horses for transport. Now we've got over 330 million people, depending on who's doing the math and what you're counting, 50 states, and global supply chains that are incredibly complex. And we're still using the same basic structure for laws and regulations, albeit they've been twisted over the years to run even worse. It's like we're managing this global powerhouse with stone tablets. You know, Windows 95 was amazing once. So were cassette tapes and VHS tapes, but not anymore. Every system we've got, justice, taxes, healthcare, education, immigration, banking, they're all broken in ways that benefit those who broke them. And in trucking, we rely on all of them. The justice system, rich people getting delays while witnesses die, poor people getting plea bargains or rot in jail awaiting trial, corporations that pay fines that are 1% of their crimes' profits, shell companies that dissolve before justice arrives, 5-year backlogs while people's lives are destroyed. The tax code has 76,000 pages because every page was bought and paid for. Complexity benefits those who can afford lawyers and accountants. Regular people need software just to file. Corporations pay nothing while truckers get audited. Intuit lobbies to keep it complex, so you need TurboTax. Ambulance rides cause bankruptcy. Insurance companies practice medicine. The same pills in our hospitals cost 10x what it costs in Canada. We got networks that make no sense. Prior authorization kills people daily. These aren't bugs. I've said it before. They're features. They're working perfectly for the people who design them to extract value while providing minimal service. Every broken system that we rely on has industries profiting from the dysfunction, lobbyists protecting the profits, politicians funded by the lobbyists, and regulators planning their next industry job that usually ends up on K Street with the other lobbyists. Lawyers are making fortunes from this complexity. Consultants are studying the problems they help create. And all of this touches trucking. Justice systems that don't prosecute these chameleon carriers and their shell companies. And the bigger companies that are utilizing the same infrastructure to make profits too. Tax systems that let them evade through complexity. Healthcare systems that drivers can't afford. Immigration systems that enables exploitation. Banking systems that fund predatory lease cycles. Insurance systems that punish honest operators. We've been using a corrupted operating system for so long that we don't remember what it's supposed to look like. We argue about which broken calculator is right when the output is obviously wrong. Anyone who points out that 2 plus 2 does not equal 5 gets called an extremist. The people who program the broken calculators profit from the chaos. Couple more to go. Number 11, the nuclear verdict lottery. And here's one of the biggest hidden taxes of all. Bigger than most actual taxes, believe it or not. The lawsuit lottery that adds billions to the cost of everything while enriching a tiny parasitic class of trial lawyers who happen to be the biggest political donors to one particular party. The average trucking verdict in 2010 was $2.3 million. In 2018, it was $22.3 million. In 2023, $50+ million verdicts are common, while some are exceeding $100 million. And who pays? Every consumer through higher shipping costs. And who benefits? Lawyers, taking 30-40% of the verdicts. Some estimates put the total volume of these lawsuits of U.S. tort cases at $443 billion annually. That's $1,337 per American per year. And it's the perfect scam. The lawyers are everywhere. The lawyers help write the vague safety regulations. Are you telling me that lawyers couldn't have come up with something cleaner than some of the vague descriptions we see in the little green book? Come on now. The people who gave us 76,000 pages of tax loopholes couldn't come up with a better way to explain personal conveyance or split sleeper berth. So they write vague safety regulations. Companies can't possibly comply perfectly. Accidents happen. Sue for negligent violation of impossible standards. Scary truck versus sympathetic victim. And there you have it, folks. A nuclear verdict. Lawyer takes 20 million out of 50 million verdict, and insurance rates skyrocket. Consumers pay through higher prices because remember, all transportation costs get rolled up through the cost of the goods being shipped one way or another. Legitimate operators go bankrupt. Shell companies proliferate because they're willing to play a game of whack-a-mole. And so, as a society, we get to bear the risk of the moles running around. And when they do get in an accident, they do things like the guy did in Florida, which is try to disappear overseas. And you watch, when it comes time to pay for these verdicts, what you see oftentimes is the victims don't actually get anywhere near the money that was intended because the companies are gone. The LLC shuts down, it files bankruptcy, there's a layer of protection there. So everybody's running around who's trying to operate legitimately, one nuclear verdict away from the end. And anytime you try to make a change, guess who's standing there to block every reform attempt on tort reform or award caps? You guessed it. The lawyers are there, crying victims' rights while turning tragedy into profit. What transparency would reveal if we dig a little deeper is a lot of the same names are the ones winning a lot of these same verdicts. And these same names are maxing out a lot of political donations. There's a lot of former partners in these firms that are in government, writing amicus briefs against tort reform, funding victims' rights organizations, providing expert witnesses. You know, you look at some of these big verdicts and 40% of it, 40% of it goes to the law firm. Another 10% probably goes to a litigation finance company because, right, they have to fund this. And it comes out of your cut, not the lawyer's cut. They don't fund that themselves. What are you, silly? You know, another 5, 10%. We're going to need expert witnesses. 5, 10% for costs. You know, private jets, luxury hotels, all these briefs that have to be filed and argued about ad nauseum. So when you look at it, it's not just 30, 40% that goes to the attorneys. It's much more. And I'm not saying let corporations and bad actors off the hook. Make them pay in some way. Totally for that, right? Accountability is a balance. But this giant lawsuit tariff only truckers cry about has gone on long enough because let's call another spade a spade. Here's the game. They perfected the way to screw somebody with a little voice who can extract value from others. That's us, folks, the truckers. The people really getting screwed don't know how it's being done. Hell, oftentimes they're so stupid as to cheer for it and vote for it. The truckers are a great tool for making this happen. We're the villains, remember? Tax us, fine us, fee us to death. We'll never get any sympathy. And of course, we go and extract that money right back from the recipients of the goods, the consumers. Hey, New Yorkers. Who do you actually think pays for all the massive bridge fees on the trucks that delivers your freight to you over in New York City? Do you think it's us? Guess again. Sacred cow number 12, the last one. And this is where it all connects. Last month, I stood at Runnymede, England, that meadow by the Thames River where the Magna Carta was signed, where the barons forced King John to put limits on his power. At least that's the story we tell ourselves. Now it's a monument to freedom and rule of law, funded by the American Bar Association. Let that part sink in. The lawyers built a monument to the document that supposedly limited power. And standing there, it hit me the Magna Carta wasn't about freedom for common people. It was about barons protecting their interests from the king. Fast forward 800 years, the lawyers are the new barons. They've built monuments to themselves at Runnymede, celebrating their role as guardians of justice while they are the system, extracting tribute from everyone else. Which brings us to the moneylenders in the temple, the thread that connects every sacred cow that I've addressed today. Here's how the lawyer tax works. They get paid at every step, every transaction, every dispute, every regulation, every reform, every failure. Step one, create the problem. Lawyers get paid $500 to $1,500 per hour to write incomprehensible regulations. We've got congressional lawyers, regulatory lawyers, lobbyist lawyers, all billing while they create complexity. Step two, interpreting the mess. Now we have to pay the lawyers to understand what the first lawyers wrote. More lawyers, compliance lawyers, corporate counsel, outside firms billing us to decode the code. Step three, avoid the rules. More lawyers getting paid to create workarounds. Shell company formation, lawyers. Offshore structures, lawyers. Regulatory arbitrage, lawyers. All billing to evade what other lawyers created. Step four, enforcement. Government lawyers getting paid less, of course, but with pensions, to occasionally enforce the rules. Private lawyers get paid more to defend against them. Both sides billing while nothing changes. Step five, suing over the mess. We've got trial lawyers, defense lawyers billing thousands per hour to defend against these potential verdicts, expert witnesses, which are former regulators usually, getting $1,000 an hour. The lawyers get a cut. Everyone bills while consumers pay the verdicts through higher prices. Step six, reform. But not really. New lawyers get paid to fix what the old lawyers broke while writing new regulations to replace old ones, creating new complexity to address old complexity, more billing to rearrange deck chairs. That brings us to step seven, defending the last round from the next round. Lawyers defending Obama era rules from Trump changes. Lawyers defending Trump changes from Biden reversals. Lawyers defending state rules from federal challenges. Lawyers defending federal rules from state resistance. Endless billing for endless conflict. The numbers are staggering. The United States legal service market is $350 plus billion annually. That's larger than the GDP of most countries. And that's a tax on everything. Every product you buy includes the cost of the lawyers who wrote the regs, the cost of the lawyers who ensure compliance, the cost of the lawyers who defend, the cost of the lawyers who sue. I feel like this is a freaking Dr. Seuss song, but it's not. Your groceries, your fuel, your insurance, your healthcare, your home, your job, they're all paying the internal tariff for all the lawyers. We scream about 10% tax on tariffs about crap we don't even need from China. Meanwhile, lawyers are the 5 to 10% tax on everything, every transaction, every business decision, every government action that goes on in this country. It's the perfect perpetual motion machine of extraction, getting rich at every step, creating the problems they get paid to solve, then getting paid to make them worse. We need to drive them out, not because law doesn't matter, but because they've turned law into a wealth extraction machine that they control at every level. It's time to stop paying tribute to the new barons. And you hear that sound, villains? This is not me crying, but it's definitely not me smiling. I'm whistling. The sharp, clear sound that needs to cut through the BS. I didn't offer any solutions today for a reason, because it's complex to find solutions, and that's part of the game that they set up. And discussing the solutions obscures the need to get rid of the sacred cows. That's also part of the game. Let's not confuse the two things. We don't have to have perfect solutions to get rid of something that's god-awful and taking advantage of us today. Now, one thing I want to say before we get to the end here. Before every attorney listening starts drafting their defamation suits against me, I'm not saying that every lawyer is the problem. Just like trucking, and we have our highway gentlemen and women who'll stop to help you change a tire at 2 a.m. And we've also got the ones throwing piss jugs in the parking lot. The legal profession has the same spectrum. There are attorneys out there who fight for actual justice, defending the defenseless, keeping power in check. We've got public defenders out there making $50K a year to ensure that people get representation and are defended from the overwhelming force of the government. There are ones who actually believe in law as a tool for fairness, but they're not the ones writing 76,000 pages of tax code. They're not the one taking billions of dollars in cumulative nuclear verdicts. They're not the ones funding monuments at Runnymede. They're not the new barons. The good ones know exactly who I'm talking about. Hell, they probably hate the other ones just as much as we do. And we understand that sentiment quite well in trucking. So let's wrap this up. Today we named the sacred cows that need to go. We lined them up. And the question is whether we have the courage to do something about them or not. Or if we're going to keep pretending that they're holy while they consume everything worth saving. Removing the sacred cows is only going to be half the job. Once we clear that pasture out, we've got to decide what we're going to do instead and where we go from here. Episode by episode, guest by guest, we're going to keep whistling. We're going to keep finding you, keep sharing your stories, keep connecting the dots. Not because I have all the answers or we have all the answers together, but because we're tired of their answers that always seem to work out nicely for them. That's the drive line for today, villains. Up next, we talk to Lee Owens, who has his truck show coming up this week down in Searcy, Arkansas, the American Truckers Jubilee. We'll drop it down to line 4 for a quick break and come back and talk with Lee. We've got work to do. True TMS is a cloud-based transportation management system. Being in the cloud makes integrations faster and you're able to access the platform from anywhere. It has intuitive planning, on-demand reporting, and easy order creation, rating, and invoices, which turns tedious admin work into streamlined automated workflows. The folks at True TMS have decades of trucking and liquid experience, and they care about this industry. They don't just sell you a product, they're invested in your success. Visit their website, truetms.com, and of course, tell them Channel 19 sent you.
More than anything, this show's about bringing back the sense of community we used to find on the CB, especially good old Channel 19. No rants, no corporate spin, just long-form storytelling from someone who's been behind the wheel, built the fleet, hit rock bottom, and climbed right back up.
So I am technology challenged. So when we first had the ELDs come out, I had my own little trucking company, and my wife had ELDs put in all the trucks. And this goes to tell you, I'm old-fashioned. But anyway, she typed me in it, and I took off, and I didn't do anything else the rest of the trip. And somehow or another, I had multiple violations on that thing whenever the DOT decided to pull me into the scale house. And I got to learning real fast how to operate that thing. But hey, recently I just got a new phone here at the beginning of the summer. My phone got real slow. I mean, and I would try to make calls and it just go all jittery and stuff. So when we took it up there, the lady looked at me. She hooked it up and everything, whatever they do to it. She looked at me and she said, we have people come in here and think they've really done something when they've had 1,000 text messages that they never erased. But I have never in my life seen anybody with over 25,000 undeleted text messages and 8,000 missed, the calls, on my when you call and I don't answer and you get voicemail.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took 5 hours or better to get a telephone, but I finally got one.
You're on the path now.
Hey, I'm learning. Matter of fact, every now and then I come home, she'll say, "Hey, let me see that telephone." She'll go to deleting stuff in there, but don't delete anything important. So, yeah, it was a bad day that day. Most days, the ELD and the telephone. So,
Well, you made it, buddy. I'm glad. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be here. Glad to be part of the trucking industry.
Yeah, so let's go back in time a little bit and let's tell everybody on the show just like what do you do in trucking and how did you get into this crazy game?
Well, part of that is a deep, dark secret. Let's just say that instead of ever having to go to jail, I ended up in the cab of a truck at 19 years old. It's a rough life learning how to drive a truck from your dad and your grandpa and your uncle, okay?
Yeah, they tend to be good at driving the trucks, but teaching is another story. That's a different skill.
Well, I don't know which one was worse. I mean, my grandpa I think it was my grandpa. It might have been my dad. But anyway, maybe both of them. I would sit back there and I'd really want to get to trucking. You know, man, all these trucks passing me and stuff. I wanted to get in there and run behind them. And, man, it wouldn't be just a little bit. One of them would pop up and say, "Hey, I hear a wind whistling over this flavor. You need to slow down." So I'd slow down. Or I'd get spat on the side of the head, you know. No, you got to slow down. So after all that year was over, I was so glad to crawl in my own truck. You would not know.
So this is a family tradition for you.
Yes, yeah. It's been in my family we've been truckers for years. It's handed down. Matter of fact, my grandpa now is 98 years old, and bless her soul, we put my sister-in-law, my little brother's wife, she lost her battle with cancer, and we had a little we had a funeral for her, and he was at the funeral, and he was asking me, "You still trucking?" He always asks me that. "You still trucking?" Yep. Well, I wished I was. Well, at 98 years old, Grandpa, I don't want you out in a truck. I'm watching you drive a car. Come on now. And he still drives.
Wow.
At about 45 miles an hour.
Sounds like my grandfather.
But well, bless his soul. I think he's going to live to be 100. I really hope he lives past 100. I'd love to have that milestone in my family. You know, I'd love to have it. But he wouldn't fit in the trucking industry today.
No, there's a lot of us once we get to a certain age, like it ain't like we remember it.
Oh man, it ain't. It is nothing. You know, when I really saw the turning point in the trucking industry, you know, what I remember is just right after the World Trade Centers went down. I mean, there was like a big change in everything. So it just wasn't the same no more. That's when I noticed it. I mean, it might have been way before then, but that's when I really noticed it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I went bankrupt in 2002 with my small fleet of trucks, and when I got back behind the wheel in 2005 or so, it was different.
Uh-huh.
You're right. Yeah, it was much different. It's kind of
it was a change.
Yeah. All kinds of, I mean, the world changed, right? Technology got, I mean, before that, cell phones were barely a thing. The big fleets weren't as big, and they weren't everywhere and everything.
Right. I miss the cabover days. That's what I miss. Back when we go down the highway, and Snyder and J.B. Hunt had cabo. Oh, and MS, I had MS Company. I can't remember the last name of that, but anyway, yeah, I miss the cabover days.
Yeah, that was a different era too. It took a different kind of person to physically endure those days. It wasn't as easy. There wasn't no kick your leg out the window in a cab over kind of trucking.
Nope. I'll never forget my first trip through Dallas, Texas in a cab over. Oh my God. I about had a cow whenever a car cut right out in front of me. I've been so used to running with a great big old long hood in front of me, and then I make a trip to Dallas, Texas in a in a Freightliner cab over, and Lord of mercy, I thought I was gonna die before I got through that city. Woo! I got used to it.
Well, you tend to kind of make different choices when your face is that close to the action, like there's not much between you and anybody else's bad decisions or your own bad decisions at that point.
Well, the biggest fear I had in it was to get to that engine, you had to lift that cab up, it would, go forward. My biggest fear of driving that thing was what happens if that thing breaks? Yeah. I even went as far as, now I was a young man back then, I went as far as putting me a couple of bungee cords around it so it wouldn't make a change. Well, it wasn't going to help. What was going to happen with them bungee cords if that thing went forward? It snap.
Well, even the locking mechanism, right, on those cabovers, like, it didn't seem like it was the most sturdy thing in the world to be putting all that kind of pressure on if the moment really comes, right?
Right. No, that was, like I said, that was always my biggest issue or fear of that cab over. But hey, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to do it. I think every trucker in America ought to experience a trip in a cab over. It's a different experience, especially when people are hollering. Especially when people are hollering at you, line your right knee up with that dark spot on the highway. I'm trying to keep it out of the ditch and off the yellow lines and everything else. Nobody told me. They just said, here's your truck. Go to Laredo, Texas. So, yeah, it was a different experience.
Well, all kinds of things were different then, right? Like, the air-powered windshield wipers, and like there were just a ton of amenities, that you didn't have. They'd irritate the hell out of me. Like, it drove me nuts because they wouldn't go at a constant speed, and you'd try to adjust the valve a little bit, then you'd hit a bump and it'd move the little the valve a little bit, and then they'd go faster all of a sudden, and like
right. Hey, my first truck was a 1981 model W900. I thought I was in high cotton when I bought that truck, and it had them, the air window wipers in it. Yeah. Well, I tried to turn both of them on at the same time so they would be in sync with each other, but one's going to get ahead of the other one, and it's usually going to be the passenger side. I got desperate. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning one time, and I was trucking out down through Colorado, and my driver's side went out. And I don't remember how I'd done it, but it was all backwards. And I took the air thing off of the passenger side and put it over on the driver's side so I could have a wiper, So it worked backwards, but it worked.
Yeah, my big fear in those cabovers, because when I was a kid, my dad, a set of duals came off of another guy's trailer and hit him dead center in the middle, right below the windshields, right on the top of the old International grill. And that's what scared me, like just getting hit by something when there's, nothing to, or hitting like a deer or a cow or something in a cab.
Right. Well, when I was growing up, I grew up with the old TranStar International cabovers, even ones with the air starter. Because I remember being a little kid and remember listening to Dad and Mom early in the morning. Dad getting up and getting ready to leave out for the week, and he drove an old International TranStar cabover with an air starter on it. And it wasn't but about 20 feet off of my window, but I'll never forget the sound of that air starter going off. Yeah, something you just don't never forget.
Right.
Something you don't never forget.
There was something about the coziness in those cabovers that I still kind of reminisce about, right? With the doghouse there next to you. And I don't know, there was just a home, hominess to it.
Yeah. Well, if you had one of them little short sticks on the doghouse, man, you could go through gears in a hurry. But there was something about the long one that went up, between the seat and the doghouse that it didn't seem like that you could go through them as hurry as you could with that little old short stick. I could make one of them little short sticks dance. I mean, that was just all there was to it. Now I gotta go find me a cab over. I'm gonna drive a cab over.
Yeah, get yourself an old cab over, drop about 80, 90 grand into fixing it up, and and then you have yourself a show truck.
Well, you know what? Don't hold your breath. One of these days, I sold a 359 that I was going to turn a show truck into, and came a long ways with it, and then had to stop. And well, it kind of went downhill, so I've sold it to my good friend Jim Fraley, and I missed that truck. But if I had my thoughts, and if I wanted to do something to represent the truck show, American Truckers Jubilee, I would do me a cab over. Wrap that sucker in American flag.
Well, you mentioned your truck show. You got a truck show coming up here in just a little over a week. Well, a week from today.
Yes, sir. October 24th and the 25th, to be exact. Got a whole weekend of events lined up. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
So how long have you been doing a truck show?
Well, we kind of messed around with one, I think either 2016 or 2017. I scratch my head on it all the time trying to remember. I guess I could find out, I guess. But anyway, it started out with a good friend of mine had to come out of a truck, and he needed a back operation. Well, we thought maybe we might could have a good run at it, and we had some good people standing behind us to kick it all off. And we didn't raise enough, but we raised enough to help him pay his finances, and I thought, man, that was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed doing it, and I love meeting people. I mean, I'm a people person. Matter of fact, my wife gives me a list of what all I'm allowed to say and who I'm allowed to talk to when we go into a place. But usually I don't mind, so I don't get a spanking for it, but I do get scolded. And, I'm just a people person. I mean, I'm just a people person. I wear overalls a lot, and when I see a guy in overalls, I say, man, I like your drags, But no, we started, I think it was about 2017. Man, I found a joy and a happiness in doing it. And I tried a few years in between when I became American Truckers Jubilee. We were first old school Unity truck show. COVID hit, and I thought, well, everybody's not having truck shows this year, and I didn't know if I should. The city really wasn't going to shut me down for it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take this year off. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to try to make this, a thing. So I thought of the name, and I came up with American Truckers, and then I always love a Jubilee. If you were in Arkansas, you know all about hootenannies and stuff like that. They're just always so much fun. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to put in there Jamboree. And then I was like, no, I don't like that. Then, I don't know, somebody said, well, just call it Jubilee at the end. It's L-E-E. I said, oh, okay. So I called it Jubilee. So we regrouped, and I decided then that I was going to stray away from adult-type charities. So I've always had a soft spot for kids that were sick or crippled or whatever, and so I would pick, charities that help kids. And that's how I ended up right now with Make-A-Wish, is who we're doing this year's show for, is Make-A-Wish. So here we are in year 5, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice. Yeah, and I see you got a whole bunch of events for like kids too, right? So it's bring the whole family kind of event.
Yeah, this is the first. Everybody always said, man, we need the kids out here. We need the kids out here. So we really preached it all through town and the surrounding towns. I was sitting there and I thought, okay, patrioticness. I love being patriotic, and I love the American flag. And I was sitting there and fixing to go to bed here a while back and wondering how I was going to name my my little kid event. I said, okay, it's going to be on Friday night with the lights, with our light show, which is bull snot, chicken lights, and chrome light show. And I thought, okay, I want to add the cars too. So I picked a good friend of mine, and I talked to him. He owns Audio Envy here in town. And matter of fact, they got a show coming up this weekend at the White County Fairgrounds. It's a Wake the Dead, and believe me, some of them boys got something to wake the dead with. I don't want that much. So I thought, I'm gonna talk to him, and I'm gonna see if I can use his name and use it for a front. So we did that, and the name that I came up with was Red, White, and Boo. So it's Red, White, and Boo night for the kids. We're gonna have a Halloween costume contest. We got sibling designs, made some little trophies for them. So we're going to give those away, and probably a big, huge bag of candy or something. I don't know. I haven't thought really too much on that other than the trophy. And then our pinup contest for the ladies dressing like 1950 ended up getting canceled. So I thought, okay, well, we'll just add the adult costume contest too. And, well, I'm probably going to give money up for it for the adults. It was a last-minute thing, so it'll probably be cash prizes. I don't know how much yet. I haven't discussed that with my she-boss. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we got Red, White, and Boo on Friday night. We got a Sugarloaf Band from out of Heber Springs coming to perform for us. And then we always have a little shindig for the drivers. And, of course, this year we rented one of the big buildings there. It's big. It's got a stage and everything inside of it. I just forgot what the name of it is right now. We're going to have Cabover Pete. Man, a great band out of, I think, Russellville, Arkansas. And they are just absolutely awesome. We'll have the Road Pro Family of Brands cornhole competition. Probably have a buy-in, and we'll split the money between the winners, and also have prizes from Road Pro on that. And they've also been a long-term sponsor of ours, and I'm grateful to have them. DPF Regeneration is another one. I'm even naming the adult and the kids' swing costume after DPF Regeneration. They're great folks. They're always there to help us out. And, of course, there's number one, the big guy, Bull Snot, and they stand behind us as a true partner, and that's how we came up with the Chicken Lights and Chrome, Bull Snot Chicken Lights and Chrome light show. And, well, the guys, they compete for 3 of the biggest wooden and acrylic light show trophies on the face of the planet. I mean, they're just beautiful. So nice. I even have one of them made this year for my Trucker of the Year award. And the way that thing works is it's quarter votes, and you can pay $1 or $2, whatever you want to, or whatever truck you want to pay, and whoever ends up it's another way to raise for charity, but whoever raises the most points becomes our winner for the year. I mean, that can be any truck. And you'll be surprised. The underdog sometimes gets most of the attention. It surprises me. And we got a lot of dump trucks coming this year, which I'm excited for that. I mean, I love seeing these guys come and be part, because we're not so much the show truck side of things. It's more the driver and his truck. We come and we have a good time. It's like a family reunion. And, man, if you're a salesman out there of anything, your best option is to show up there, because there's so many owner-operators, and it's their trucks. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I like Jubilee. That's a great word for it.
Yeah, it grew on me. Especially at the end, it says, did I mention this? It says LEE at the end of Jubilee.
I hadn't picked up on that until you said it. But well done.
That's what. Go ahead.
Well, you got a future in marketing if if you get tired of gear jamming. There you go. Red, White, and Boo.
Well, you
Jubilee.
The first person ever told me that. Right.
Those are good.
Oh, yeah, listen, for the listeners out there, really, this is a truck show for the truckers and their trucks. I mean, man, we've had trucks show up with a blue hood, a red fender, a purple fender on the other side, a silver door, a black cab with I don't know, let's just pick a color. And they still took home a trophy, in which I was going to touch on that a while ago. I was thinking about cutting my trophies back. I mean, I literally wanted to cut my trophies back. And and a lot of this, I use a lot of drivers that I talk to on a daily basis, or a weekly basis or whatever. And we would have conversations about it. Well, I'm thinking about cutting. Nope, you do, and I quit coming. Oh, well, yeah, I like their top 20 is the reason why I come. I said, okay. I think the bigger trophies? Said, no. I think what you got going on there is wonderful. I said, well, I feel like the handicap of the truck show thing that I just give out a participation trophy to everybody. So, well, they said no, because it gives everybody a fair chance.
Yeah.
You know, don't do away with it. It gives everybody a fair chance. Well, and here's the other odd thing about it. All through the year, I'll have people call me and say, hey, is it okay if I have trophies made and give them away? Yeah, go ahead. You know, I don't care. If you want to bring a trophy and give it away, give it away. You know, I'm not going to give it away because I give away too many. But you're more than welcome to give them away. Which is like Randy Victory's kind of like one of my right-hand men, and he's got some nice show trucks. He called me one day. I think he's got 10 little some-odd trophy things that he's going to give away, you know. So we get that a lot, and I'm okay with it, but you got to be the one to give it away. I'm not giving it away.
Now next year, I'm going to have to get some trophies made and come give away my trophies too. That sounds like fun.
You know what? I would love that. The Channel 19 Experience Extravaganza trophies. I like that. I like
there
that.
You go.
Just do it. If you do show up, you will see that happen a lot. I mean, it's it's going to happen. It's just like Truckers of Christ. They come. He's another one of my right-hand men, Stephen Myers. Well, they're going to give away 3, I think. I don't know, back here behind me. I can look. I think it's 3 or 4 of that trophies they got. Well, they're all covered up. I can't really see them. But they give away some nice, beautiful cross trophies. I mean, they're gorgeous. Oh,
yeah,
and with that being said, you know, this year we lost one of our top number 1 drivers in my book due to cancer, and that was Bill Weaver. This year I had a beautiful, I think it's 2-foot trophy back there, and it's blue because he brought that truck from Shipping Wars one year. He bought it and brought it to us. I can't remember that feller's name right now. Save my soul. But anyway, Mark Springer. And he bought his truck and brought it to the show that year. And in that remembrance, I've done it in the blue. And it is the Bill Weaver Memorial Award. I give away a Bob Spooner Award. Of course, everybody knows Bob Spooner's truck was yellow. And the closest I could get to yellow was gold. So we give away a Bob Spooner Award. We give away a lady truck driver trophy that is the Idella Henson Award. She's been in the trucking industry for over 50 years now, and she still trucks. And she comes to the show, and she picks her lady to give that trophy to. So there's trophies. There's a line for ladies. I mean, of course, they're for any of them, but that one right there in particular is women alone, and it's a pinkish color, I guess. I have those 3 given away this year, and this is the first year for the Bill Weaver Memorial Award, but I think I'm going to have a replica of it made and take it to car shows and stuff with me.
Well, that sounds like a great amount of fun with all the trophies, and from the youth and all the fun things for the kids to do to the people who've been in the industry a long time, a lot of ways to have the community of trucking come together.
Right. Oh, we are trying. And also on Saturday the 25th, we're having also a car show from about 9 o'clock to maybe 1. And you'll be surprised. There's a lot of drivers that has brought a car or 2 with them to show on their trucks and stuff. I've had that happen. So we are having a car show also this year on Saturday. And I belong to a car club called Pharaohs of Little Rock, which is a national car club all the way from California. It started in California. We host the Pharaohs of Little Rock Anything on Wheels car show, and that means anything. Motorcycles. We've even had lawnmowers. Hey, the lawnmower project is fun. I'm not doing it this fall, but I'm bringing it back next fall because I decided to put all my shows into one. I rent that fairgrounds, and I might as well use it. So I'm going to have all my shows in one. We have a rat rod lawnmower build-off, which this year we're going to call it Yard Toys, and it could be anything, a mini bike, or there's been all kinds of wild stuff coming through. So, yeah, we're going to do that and add that back next fall.
The lawnmowers can get pretty wild. I live in Buckeye, Arizona on the west side of Phoenix, and every year we have a big lawnmower races. They go down to the racetrack, and these guys soup up their lawnmowers with all kinds of aftermarket parts, and they race. And I wouldn't get on any of them. None of them looks very safe, but we usually find a good 20, 30 brave souls to go race them.
You know, I started off with a mini bike, one of those Coleman mini bikes. Now, I'm talking about just here recently. And I went down there to Harbor Freight, and I bought one of those mean little Predator motors. And let me tell you something. My first trip on that, it got away from me. It reared straight up in the air and started cutting out across the yard, dumped me on the ground, and I was like, oh, no. So I parked it and left it alone and thought, what am I going to do with this thing? I mean, it was mean. And the thought came to my mind, well, my grandson lives out in the country. He might like that. I called my son. I said, hey, order him some body armor and a motorcycle helmet. He says, why? I said, I have built one mean little old mini bike, and I'm scared to death of this thing. I look pretty funny out here in my subdivision, laying on the ground in a pair of overalls and a mini bike about 20 foot up there grabbing it. But I had this, okay, so you know what happens with the clutches on them. They'll sit still as long as they'll sit and idle. Well, I was having a little trouble trying to get this thing to adjust, and I thought, well, I'm going to start it up and give it a little fuel. And I was standing beside it. And I gave that thing a little fuel, and I pulled that rope, and I mean, she took off like a haint, baby. My direction. So I limped around the house for a few days, and I dared not tell my wife what I done. And she says, what are you doing with that mini bike in that small little motorcycle in the garage? I said, I'm going to ride. She said, you're going to look funny. The whole time I ain't telling her that I'd done already dumped it and learned my lesson. Then finally I told her, I said, well, I'm giving it to my grandson for Christmas. He can handle it. But anyway, he still rides it to this day. But yeah, we're geared up. I mean, we're expecting to have the largest 2-year yet truck show that we've ever had this year. I know you can tell that the trucking industry is in a tizzy still. I'm hoping that gets better this next year for everybody, so everybody go back to making money. But man, we're going to make it. I mean, we're going to make it.
Yeah. This business has got ups and downs, and the downs can be lean, but yeah, we persevere.
Yes, there needs to be many changes. I mean, numbers of changes. And like I've said before, I try to watch what I say, but it's obvious. Everybody knows that there needs to be changes. When I had my trucks, my biggest fear was the dispatching, and the load getting. I mean, getting enough to pay to justify for anything. And it was starting to get pretty rough there. And that's when I gave up. I just said, I can't, I'm not going to sit and suffer over this. I'm not going to do it. So I got tired of working on them and got tired of spending all my time on them and missing out. So that's when I took a job with a buddy of mine, and I've been working for him ever since then. I sure hated it because I loved my freedom, but really and truly, I didn't have no freedom. I was married to that truck and not my wife.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially when you got multiple of them.
Well, my biggest number was only 5, but still 5 of them was a job.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'd find myself down there at my shop at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get one ready so a guy could take off on Monday morning,
Yeah.
Wow. But you had to because you could not afford to pay somebody to do all your work. I mean, you couldn't do it. If it was beyond my pay grade, I let somebody else do it. Most of it I done myself. Tried to save me money.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it is a battle that I was well ready to get rid of. I don't want another one unless it's just a show truck.
There you go, a hobby.
All right. Well, it's a very expensive hobby. I think a hot rod's cheaper.
Well, Well, it's good to hear that you've got a good crowd lined up and you've got your sponsors and everything's going well. Looking forward to a big show this year, and really great that you could jump on the phone call. We got it figured out. We got you here and we got to talk about your show a little bit.
Right. That did take a minute to get me on here, didn't it? Hey, I made it. I'm a champion.
Go. I'll work on getting
Yes,
your
I'm looking
trophy ready for next year. I'll bring you a technology trophy.
Hey, I would love that. I would love that. I would love that. You know, a lot of times, even I mean, it's awesome, and to me, that's everybody getting involved. Because I tried, and I was going to touch on that a while ago when I said I called my truckers and asked them questions. You know, the guys that come every year, you know, and has for ever since I started, and you know, I get their opinions on it. This ain't just my show. This is our show. I'm not looking for fame or a name or anything else. I'm so friendly anyway. Everybody knows who I am. But I love meeting. My biggest thing is I get to meet people. I mean, I love it. I love it when new people come because before they leave, I'm going to make them my friend. They're going to be back. They'll be back.
Well, that's awesome, Lee.
And that I enjoy.
So great to have you on the call, man. And thanks for jumping on and thanks for all you do with your show, especially working towards something like Make-A-Wish this year. So everybody get out there, visit Lee's show over in Searcy, Arkansas next Friday and Saturday, the 24th and 25th. Lee, we'll catch up with you soon, brother.
Yeah. Join us on Facebook. It's American Truckers Jubilee / Children's Convoy. Join along with us. Follow us. Get in there and get involved with us. And yes, it was a pleasure being on your show. We'll talk to you later, Tony, and hopefully see all y'all at the truck show October 24th and 25th at the White County Fairgrounds in Searcy, Arkansas. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
Take care, Lee. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
We're talking trucking life, uncut. The wild stuff, the weird stuff, the mistakes, the memories, and the miles in between. From first jobs to last hauls, the laughs that kept us going, and the lessons that left a mark.
Well, villains, that's going to do it for this week's run. Quick shout out, of course, to Lee Owens for hopping on the mic this week to talk about his show coming up this coming Friday and Saturday, October 24th and 25th in Searcy, Arkansas. Of course, Matt Rayner, he's still roaming around Canada. We've texted a bit this week, but I haven't talked to him, so I got to give him a call this week, see where he's at. Will Cook and his Facebook page, Driver's Perspective, always great conversations with Will, and he's got a ton of great content. Big Cal at Trucking with Coffee and Cal. Get those orders in for one of his new mugs. Deb Labrie, check out her page, womantrucker.com. TJ Graff from Star Behaviors, go take his free assessment. See if maybe you might be a good fit to be a truck driver. What do you say? Mike Ritzema, Superior Trucking Payroll Services. Sorry, Mike. Check out his podcast at truckingpayroll.com. Bobby McGee and her blog, A Hard Shell Life. She's going to be over there at Lee's show in Searcy, Arkansas. Go say hi to her this week. And don't forget about Barry Trahan, who also has his truck show going down this weekend, the 3rd annual Louisiana Truck Show in Rain, Louisiana. It's really great people involved in these truck shows. So go out and support them. They put in a ton of effort. They care a great deal about our community, their communities, the trucking community. It's so heartwarming to see what they do. Check out all the upcoming truck shows at thetruckshowlist.com. Dates are starting to pop up for 2026 already. Wow, just a couple more months. Well, maybe 5 months. We'll be at the Phoenix Truck Show all over again. I think it's at the end of February next year. So yeah, that's less than 5 months away. I better get the ducks in a row. You know, I talked a lot this show about the concert, the White Buffalo, and how that powerful moment wasn't the music. It was that one sentence he said that you can't whistle while you're smiling. He said before that he doesn't write for the radio. He writes to feel something real. He's trying to chase something real in his music. The spaces between the lyrics where the heart shows up. The thing under your skin that won't leave you alone. And that's what I'm trying to do here with the podcast as well. Not with a guitar, but with a microphone. Trying to feel something real and make other people feel it too. And a lot of other people in this industry do it too. I mentioned Will Cook, TJ Graff, Mike Reitzema, Jan and Bart Corbett over at Trans Carolina Permits, my buddy Eric Vertical, my other buddy Verlin Larson, right? People chasing that deeper thing, the truth underneath the polish, the thing more valuable than a click or an algorithm or a like or a sponsorship, because that's what connects all of us. It's why Disney musicals can resonate as much as Socrates. It's why trucking stories from 50 years ago can go with 900-year-old documents sitting in museums in England. Next week on episode 34, we're going to keep talking to some truckers. I got a few new truckers on deck to talk to. Oh, that reminds me. One more shout out this week for Danielle Spinelli. Danielle also interviewed me this week for her podcast. She's got a couple of shows actually. One of her shows is called Tell Me Everything, which she talks to all kinds of different people in the trucking space, a little bit like we do, but different. She's talked to different folks, and she does a great job interviewing them. And then another part of her channel is called Fraud Girl, that she drops every Friday episodes where she digs into all kinds of trucking related fraud topics and people involved in the fight against fraud in trucking. It's really great content and informative about what other people are dealing with. So it's good information for all of you to hear all the scams that are going on and how people are trying to prevent it. So I'll share some of those links, and we had a great conversation, and she'll release that here in the coming months. But in the meantime, keep driving nails, keep asking questions, keep remembering what others want to externalize. If you want to be a part of the conversation, inbox at channel19experience.com. And every once in a while this week, remember that line from the White Buffalo. You can't whistle when you're smiling. So when the world tells you to grin and stay quiet, whistle anyway. Thank you once again for having me in the jump seat with you this week. We've got work to do.
This has been the Channel 19 Experience. If it's about trucking, we're talking about it. All uncut. The wild stuff, the weird stuff, the mistakes, the memories. But we talk about the world of trucking today, too. Everything from legislation to lane changes in the industry. We got it covered. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back at the ranch soon, but in the meantime, hit us up on social media at Channel 19 Experience and the website at www.channel19experience.com. That's channel and the numbers 19. See you down the road.